Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the review for Crying Suns. Alright, now we should start. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the review of... Let's do this again, because I keep messing this up. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the review of Crying Suns. By now, you guys know that at the end of a video, or maybe you guys don't know, I like to review the game. I have a hard time trying to give a review or a thumbs up or whatever you want to call it to a game as I'm playing it, especially a game like this where I was playing it blind. I prefer waiting to the very end to give a score, because this way I've seen the vast majority of everything I'm going to see for a game, and experienced most of it, for most of the games that I play. You should know that down in the comments section, there will be a pinned link from me over here on YouTube, just a normal one on BitChute, which will have a grade to Crying Suns, in case you don't want to actually listen to me give this review, and it will have all the different types of categories at which I award points to the game. And according to my calculations, the number scale is from 0 through 20. So let's go ahead and begin talking about Crying Suns. So as usual, the first thing that people think of when they think of a video game is the video. How good does the game look? And Crying Suns looks amazing. I really thought they did a phenomenal job on the pixel art for this game, if I can call it that. It's amazing. I really love the different battleships we encounter. From the different types of factions in the game, all look different to each other. And you begin to learn what types of weapon systems are on them. On that note, the weapons look good. I like the way they fire. You can tell generally what type of weapons are being used against you. The difference between squadrons, the different types of drones, and what have you are all recognizable as well. With some exceptions, of course. A prototype drone, you're gonna want to still click or hover over all the enemy squadrons so that you are aware of what they are. But you can still recognize a frigate compared to the fighter squadrons, compared to the drone swarms that are fielded against you. And I like watching them dogfight in real time here on the battle map. The different planets, I also really liked them as well. They all look, well, not all of them, but there's quite a different variety to them. I enjoy seeing us warp between the different sectors. I like the way that the special story restricted areas are displayed to us as well. From the introduction movie, to the brig, to where we were cycling through the captives on... not captives, the people stored? Is that the proper term to say? The people kept in their cryo storage, where our wife was located. I liked all these little particular areas, as well as the graphics for all the enemy chapter bosses that we fought, from the church to General Vivar. I thought they did a phenomenal job on all of them. I love the way that the battleships blow up as we're seeing in front of us. That is so awesome looking. From all of these aspects, I also think that they kept things simple enough to get the general information about what you're looking at across to you rather quickly. The different symbols, like for scrap, for matter destabilizer weapon, and so on. I can quickly glance at the weapon systems, and I realize what it is I'm looking at from a strategic point of view when our battleship lines up with the other enemy battleship. I'm probably going into the GUI aspect a little bit here, but overall, for graphics, I think the game has nailed it. I'm going to give the game a 3. The most points I would give a game for graphics here. Again, I thought they did a wonderful job. For the sound will be next, and you can score 2 points, up to 2 points here. And I'm going to give the game a 1 when it comes to sound. I can't think of anything wrong with the sound effects, but for some reason, aside from like the high energy beam, none of them really have an oomph behind them. Of, say, like firing the shotgun in Doom 2016, or a siege tank setting up and firing in StarCraft, for example. The sound is not bad, but nothing really stood out to me, unfortunately. But still, you know, it's good. It's good. For the music, I think so. First off, you can score up to 2 points here as well, and similar to the sound, the music is good. But I don't remember it humming any particular tune. And I don't think the music is bad. It's just that, again, nothing really stood out to me. Unlike, say, Templar Battle Force, or the Spirit Engine 2, or Dawn of War 2, where I'll still listen to those soundtracks for those games when I'm coding, or when I listen to them in my car when I'm driving from place to place. So the music gets a 1. Again, not bad, but I'm probably not going to go and get the soundtrack for this game unless I fire up a Rifts campaign or something of that sort. For the story, this is really difficult. The game is very similar to FTL in concept, in that it has a world to discover. You'll pick up a little bit about how the different factions work in this game. It was the races in FTL. And you'll learn about the H drugs, the church, individual houses that were competing for power and chips. You'll learn about the structure of the Empire's galaxy, how Oberon kept people controlled. There's a huge amount of lore in the game. But I feel that it suffers from the same problem that another lore-heavy game has, and that game would be Disco Elysium. Disco Elysium had a fantastic setting, but that ending was miserable. and this game shares that aspect. We'll talk more about the ending in particular when we reach that final category. But this game, it led me to believe that the solution could be something we could figure out. We were able maybe to detective our way to figuring out before we actually encountered the ending, and no, that is not the case. So this kind of sours the entire experience of the game itself, because although I'm playing through it again, as we can see here, I don't really care about the story any longer. I kind of wish there was a way for me to just ignore the story. Just have all the characters just say whatever, and give me just the options I have to choose from what's in front of me, because, well, again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm talking surely just about the ending. So, for the lore of this world, the universe that we find ourselves in, I'm going to... No, you can't. You can't just remove the ending and grade it separately, Tim, because it's a part of the story, too. When you graded Disco Elysium, you gave Disco Elysium a 2. Not a 3 for the story, because of the ending. So I will have to do that here as well. It's tempting to give the game a 1 for the story, in retrospect, because of how soured I am at the ending of it. But no, they did a good job on it, on everything I felt up until the last chapter. The last chapter felt a bit rushed, and the encounter with not at the very end, but the very end. The part where we're talking to the elevated god-like Omnis. I could have done without that part altogether. And I'm talking about the ending endlessly here because of how much I disliked it. So we'll give the story a 2. We'll give the story a 2. It's good. I liked it up until the very end, and then I did not like it at all at that point. Oh, there is other thing I want to point out. It is also tempting to give the game a 1 on the story for another reason. Maybe I will actually lower it to a 1. The game has this weird back and forth between trying to be extremely serious and humor in it. And I don't think that works for the game. The serious parts are very serious, but then we have the levity of, like, talking to a space pirate and a space scrapper and convincing him to let go of his slaves by convincing him that that he deserves finer things in life instead. Or we have the strange beacons that we come across, and they're almost all just comic relief. I don't think that works for this. I feel really bad giving the game a 1 for the story, given how much they have done with for other segments of it that I've greatly enjoyed. I'll come back to this. I'll dwell on this in the back of my head as I go through the other grades. Right now, we'll give it a 2, but I might lower it back down to a 1 for the story. For the gameplay, I like this. The choices you make throughout the adventure, and especially the fact that we have this real-time combat going on. It's will drive the game, in my opinion. So you're here basically for the faster-than-light choices that you get to make whenever you have encounters, and the space combat that will be in. Yeah, look at that glorious battleship blowing up. That looks absolutely amazing. The systems you visit, the upgrades and purchases that you get choices of, how you move your squadrons in battle, what weapon systems you decide to purchase, how you go about traversing the galaxy map. There is so much choice being presented to you, and you can really take advantage of this in so much that, like, you have a lot of options, and it feels like there's different ways you can reach the ending, and that you can, like, there's no necessarily bad battleship you can choose. I think some are probably better than others, but still, you can probably beat the game, and I mean every single chapter with every single battleship, as if you've unlocked them all. So I like it. The space combat, as I mentioned, or maybe I didn't, it's really great. I kind of wish there was one additional sector to each one of these chapters, so that I could play with the battleship fighting some more. I'll have to look up to see if there's a mod which actually extends the chapters by one more sector to explore. That would be amazing. Oh, I would love that. The story bits that there are, in regard to the story anomalies and encounters that you have which forward the lore of the game, are very nicely paced with the combat that you will be able to engage in. Again, though, I do wish there was a skip all conversations option. Even when we're watching this, you're going to see me eventually pull up the menu and look for it to see, is there a way I can just, yep, oh, here we are. I'm like, is there a way for me to skip the dialogue? Because I don't want the dialogue any longer. But no, there is no way, unfortunately, to skip it. So so for gameplay, I'm going to give the game a 2. It's very, very, very good. I'm tempted to give it a 3, actually. We'll go with a 2 right now. Actually, maybe we'll give the story as a 2, but we'll leave the gameplay as a 2 as well to make up for that. For the GUI and controls, the GUI is nicely done and the menus are easy to navigate in. Combat was a bit confusing for me at first. I'm glad that I stopped recording the game for like maybe 2 or 3 days. I got 2 hours worth of practice, and then I got it. I understood everything, like where to look to see how fast I was capturing things. I began to realize different battleships actually, like the different looking battleships actually have different technologies on them, and I need to remember what technologies are on which battleships. I began to understand like how the scavenging works. You begin to understand how the retreating works when you're doing a planetary away mission and what have you. So I think it's good. There's a lot of information which is displayed to you, and there's a lot to keep track of, but I do think the game does a good job of having all that information displayed for you at all times. Like, you can pause the game, first off, which is phenomenal, because there's a lot happening here that you do need to keep track of. But keeping track of, like, where your ships are, where the enemies are, how long it will take your ship to navigate from a hex to another hex, for example. We can look over at the enemy's weapon system, and we can see it's got currently 13 seconds left until it recharges. The enemy's down at a squadron dock at the moment, and it's going to take them 10 seconds until they can put another squadron up there, and they have 5 more squadrons they can deploy. We can see what the cooldowns are of all the officers, if they have an activated ability, like in the upper right-hand corner, that one guy who is slowly charging their shields, for example. And all this is really nicely done, including the hit point pips we have on all my squadrons. So it can be a little frustrating sometimes when your ships maybe don't move in the way you would normally want them to move. It's only happened a handful of times, though, so I'm not going to penalize the game too much for that. So I think on a scale of 0 through 2, I'm going to give the GUI and controls a 2. It felt perfectly natural for the vast majority of it. Again, the only problem I had occasionally was that sometimes a squadron wouldn't quite move in a way that the direction I wanted them to, and I wasn't sure what they were trying to avoid. But you get used to that after like the 3rd combat or so. Next, you can lose points for my scoring system if your game is grindy. This game isn't really grindy. We don't really need to... it might be better to describe it as this. The combats, they don't really feel... I mean, granted, you're doing the same thing in all combats, but I don't think that's a fair way to grade the game. That would be similar to us saying that in StarCraft, well, you know, you build buildings and send out units. The battles are different enough with the different ships to make it interesting whenever you're engaging in combat. And the fact that you are pressured to move forward through all these different systems in a sector is great. It's that, again, it's that FTL feeling. Like, you're not going to be able to get to every single system that you like. You're incapable of doing that because you will be forced to flee if you get locked into the pursuing fleet who is looking for you in the sector. So yeah, so there's no grind for the game. And at no point did I feel the game was actually grindy. So yeah, that's great. You don't lose any points for that, Crying Suns. Well done. For bugs and frustration, I encountered no bugs. Again, there was a little frustration very early on when I didn't really understand how or if my ships were capturing something, but that was on me. That was my problem. And I lost a few battles because of my misunderstanding or my not fully comprehending or perhaps even reading the different systems that are present on my ship and the enemy ships, along with not paying attention to what the enemy's squadrons are capable of doing. So, no bugs, and that tiny bit of frustration in the early part of the game, that was my fault, not the game's fault. And so, in so much that the game's telling me everything I need to know, I just did not know where to look, and that's my fault. So, no points lost for bugs or frustration either. For a balance for this game, I was tempted to give the balance a lower score because I do feel that some of these battleships we unlock are much more powerful than other ones. For example, the Void strikes me as being perhaps the worst ship, given its very low hit points, and its inability to really upgrade its fuel scavenging very much. And it doesn't get the pirate transponder effect of summoning and reinforcements like the AI one does. And some upgrades on your ships are more important than other ones. For example, the additional squadron dock is something you will almost always want to take every single time, because I can't imagine you only running through the game with one single squadron. You will get annihilated if that is the case. But I do feel the game is beatable with every single one of the ships. I suppose some of the weapons aren't very good compared to other ones as well. But maybe that's on me. Maybe that's also personal play style. Okay, I think for game balance, I think there probably could be a little more work done here. The game, however, is completely playable in that regard. So I view this in a similar fashion that I view Underrail in. Which is to say, it's great, I love the combat, not everything's balanced, but I can overlook that and still greatly enjoy the fighting. So I'm going to give balance a 1 on a 0 through 2. For my thumb on the scale, I like this game very much and enjoyed the story up until the very end. The ending soured me on the entirety of the game, for reasons we'll get into very soon. The ending score is coming up next. I feel bad actually hating the ending as much as I do, because this game sells itself, literally, on the fact that this is FTL but with a better story. And I agree, that is the case. I just wish the ending was something completely different than what it had been. I think I'll give this 1 Tim extra point, basically, here on Tim's thumb on the scale. So, gets 1 more point here. This category is my way of saying how much I enjoyed the game, I suppose. And if I'll probably play through it again. A 2 means I absolutely will play through the game at least 1 more time. Anything lower than that, I'll probably play through it maybe 1 more time, depending upon what aspect of the game I did or did not like. Finally comes the awesome ending score. So, flat out, this gets a 0. I dislike the ending quite a bit. I liked the very, very end when we when we were able to get to Earth, and it showed our battleship heavily damaged from the years of flying through space with our interstellar drive, or doing short warps when we were able to do them. And when our pod launched to arrive on Earth, we weren't told what happened. Were the humans still there? Were the humans all wiped out and there was no hope for us there? I like that. But I hated, absolutely hated the AI, the God Omni aspect of it. 100%. I loathed that ending. I dislike Deus Ex Machina, is that how you say it? I think so. Machina? Deus Ex Machina in all its forms. It's why I dislike Star Trek and the Doctor Who series so much. Because the Doctor, we just have to reverse the polarization capsules on the magnetron evader, and that will cause us to go invisible, obviously. Oh, obviously. And so, I hate when stuff like that occurs. And in this case, I really dislike that we were unable to guess what might have happened to the robots in any way whatsoever. I feel like the game should have ended with us meeting Oberon. They should have ended it there, and then give us the choices of 3 things to do. Just say, it's not possible to restore the machines. They were shut. Oberon shut them down, or something of that sort. But the whole God aspect, it felt like none of my choices were ever going to matter. It didn't even matter if we played the game. According to the robots, they were going to be free anyway. I hated the ending. It feels, although I didn't play Mass Effect 3, it feels like Mass Effect 3 to me. Like all of our choices, everything we did, none of it mattered in the end when it came to turning back on the machines. And I think what it is, it's that little bit of like ego that the robots have, that talking down to, oh well, we know better than you about this sort of thing. Perhaps it's just my disliking of that idea. I remember watching someone many reviews of the ending of Mass Effect 3, and I remember one guy in particular had said how much he hated like this Star Child, for example. If they had just removed him, it would have been so much better. And I think I agree. They should have done that, or I would have. Should have done that is the wrong thing to say. This is a developer's game. It's up to them to do what they want. I would have preferred the ending to have been different, and for that the elevated Omnis to be written out of the ending of the game. I really disliked it. I also found a few problems, right? When we encountered that ending, I was like, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I think you're being a hypocrite because of this reason. And I don't like the ending. Nope, not at all. I hated the ending. Absolutely loathed the ending of this game. And so, no 1 extra point for the game. Alright. So, yeah, so I think I'll leave the story also as a 2. So, we'll leave the story as a 2. The story was good. I really liked reading about it. I liked finding out about the world that we were adventuring in, the universe we were adventuring in, and the Empire and its eventual collapse and its fall. I hated the ending. I hated the ending so much. That doesn't even necessarily have to be a happy ending. Just, God, the Omnis, I just really hate them. I hated them 100%. Alright, so, Crying Suns, on a 0 through 20, gets a 13 from me, if I have recalculated the math in my head correctly. I came here for the space battles and the choices that I thought I would be able to make similarly to an FTL game, and I, in the end, stayed for those space battles and the choices like FTL that I was able to make. You will find a dystopian world laid out before you to fight through and discover why it is in decline. In fact, it is dying all around you. Although the game is touted as FTL with a fantastic story, that story does fall apart in some aspects. You have this weird humor mixed in with absolute dead seriousness. I, again, absolutely loathe the ending of this game for it coming out of nowhere, and God, I hope I can just skip it if I ever get to that part of the game again. The game looks fantastic. The combat options are fairly well balanced. The combats are fun to fight, and the different battleships give you lots of different choices to try, as does the different types of officers you'll be able to select. 13 out of 20. Good game. I can recommend it. I can also probably say, just, if you're watching this, you probably watched my entire series already, But if someone else asks you, I would say if you're taking my scores to heart, and or you say I agree with Tim, I would just say it's a good game, fun combat, not everything is balanced, the story is good, but gird yourself for a pretty unfulfilling ending. And that's it. All right, everyone. So thank you guys for watching this. I hope it was entertaining. Again, I had lots of fun playing through Crying Suns. I am, as you can see, playing through it again. I find I really enjoy the space combat and all the choices I have leading me up to the end chapter. I'll probably go look for some mods and see if the game was modded as well. All right, well, I'm babbling. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.